Hello, my name is Tony Beers, and this is Movie Grades.
And just like the movies, we play out our last scene.
Hello everybody, Tony Beers here again, and in this episode of Movie Grades, I'm going to be talking about Evil Dead 2013. In Evil Dead, a group of friends go to a cabin in the woods to help their friend kick her drug habit. And while there, they find a book, and the book unleashes an evil presence. Now, this movie is, of course, a remake of the 1982 Evil Dead movie, and some people would say that Evil Dead 2 is a remake of Evil Dead. And if that's the case, then Evil Dead 2013 would be the second time that Evil Dead has been remade. Now, I am a big fan of the Evil Dead franchise. I've got all 3 Evil Dead movies on DVD signed by the special effects makeup artist Tom Sullivan. I have the Evil Dead Fistful of Boomstick video game, and I even have my Ash Army of Darkness action figure. I would even say that Army of Darkness is one of my favorite movies of all time. And of course that makes it my favorite of the Evil Dead trilogy, followed by Evil Dead 2, and lastly by Evil Dead. One thing that I really love about Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2 is the comedic tone that they have. Now, this remake doesn't have that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. They're going for a more of a straight-up horror movie, and it'll be interesting to see how they take the franchise and to see where it goes, especially since I've heard that Army of Darkness is getting a sequel, so we'll see both of these franchises going on at the same time, where one will be more a comedic take and the other will be more of a horror movie. And it'll be interesting to see where they go, especially the remake, because they're going into, you know, uncharted territories, and the sequel will be totally different than the original Evil Dead 2. And it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Now, let's begin the review with what's bad about the movie. A remake should be like a friend you haven't seen since high school. You want them to be the same person they were, but you also want to see them mature and grow up. You want to, when you visit your friend that you haven't seen since high school, you want to see that they've got a good new job, perhaps a wife and some kids. But this film isn't like that. You see your new friend you haven't seen since high school, and they've got a new haircut, and that's it. It's a good haircut, it looks good on them, but you were expecting a lot more. And like I said, some people would say that Evil Dead 2 is already a remake of the first Evil Dead, so it's already been remade. The next bad thing is the characters in this movie are dumb. Then again, you can't have a horror movie without dumb characters. But at least these characters aren't as dumb as the characters in Prometheus. The dumbest thing these people do is actually read the book. I mean, they found this book in a cellar filled with a whole bunch of dead cats hanging from the ceiling. The book is wrapped in some kind of plastic and then wrapped again in barbed wire. And they open this book and inside it says, "Don't read this book." And what do, they read it. In the original, it was much more accidental. When they find the tape, there's no warnings on the tape. It wasn't wrapped in barbed wire. It's just a tape that they find and they play it. My friend pointed out that when the girl is trying to kick her drug habit, she dumps her drugs down the well, and he said that the water they get in the cabin probably comes from that well, so they're getting the drugs into their water system. Another reason why these characters are dumb, and this is something that's said about a lot of horror movies, is why don't they just leave? Now, this is a valid question, and there is several points where they could have left, but they chose not to. But at least this movie gives a good reason, at least one time, for why they couldn't leave, and that was because the road was flooded. They couldn't go anywhere. And now, on to the good of the movie. The acting in this movie is decent. There's nobody that sticks out as very good or very bad. The only performance that really sticks out is that of Jane Levy. I think I'm pronouncing that name correctly. And that could merely be because she has the biggest part. She plays Mia, the main character. But otherwise, none of the actors really stick out. The story is pretty good. It sticks very closely to the original. They keep you guessing as to who the new Ash character is going to be, and you really don't find out until the very end of the movie. And at the end of the movie, there's kind of a false ending, and after this false ending, the movie starts up, and that's when I really started getting excited. That's when the movie really had me at the edge of my seats, thinking, well, what's going to happen next? I mean, I thought this is where it's going to end. I mean, where are they going to go now? The special effects are excellent in this movie. That's where this movie really shines. I really love the use of practical effects in this movie. They're very well done. With the practical effects, you get a real sense of reality in this movie, whereas when it's CG, it always looks very synthetic. And the effects are so good that there are several reactions in the theater of people going, ooh, ee, ah. And when you get that kind of reaction, you know you're doing something good in a horror movie. This movie is a gorehound's dream. I mean, there's a scene where it's literally raining blood. And if you like that thing, this is the movie for you. So Evil Dead is good, but it doesn't have that over-the-top comedic element, which I found essential to me liking Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2. And it doesn't do anything innovative or new that would make it stand out as something special. The real test of this movie is gonna be the sequel, because if it's gonna keep with this straight-up horror tone, it can't be anything like Evil Dead 2. It has to be totally different and go in a completely different direction. And it's going to be interesting to see how are they going to pull this off. And although I liked this movie, it kind of left me unimpressed. They're going to have to step up their game if I'm going to stick with this franchise. I usually give a franchise a second chance to win me over. So it's up to the sequel to be great, or otherwise, I'm done with this version of the franchise. So my final grade for Evil Dead 2013 is a C+. I'm Tony Beers, and I'll see you next time.